All right, so today before we start, I just want to announce that the shir is sponsored by our dear friend Yaakov Weil, which got married a month ago about. So he sponsored the shir tonight for everybody, I guess, and obviously for him to have Baruch Hatzlacha Yeshua and all the other good stuff come through his way. Still, whoever wants to sponsor, add, feel welcome. Okay, so the topic today is that I chose to speak about is a topic which I feel comes about once a month. This topic. And in a second you'll hear what's the topic, but good guess. And this topic comes up once a month, and I feel like every time there's a few common questions that come up. So what I want to do in the shir today is just make a little bit of understanding in this sugya, in this topic, and through that, I hope some of the questions will have answers that we could carry with us in the future, and not every single month. Again, this topic comes up once a month. Every single month, get confused. So what is the topic? The topic is Hilchos Ya'aleh v'Yavo. So Ya'aleh v'Yavo is something which we say every Rosh Chodesh, and we say it for sure every Rosh Chodesh, and then we have other occasions out through the year which we say Ya'aleh v'Yavo. By Yomim Tovim, Chol HaMoed, etc. We have different times we say Ya'aleh v'Yavo, and I just yesterday was Rosh Chodesh Adar, and also 2 days ago was Rosh Chodesh Adar, so even sometimes this topic comes up twice a month, so it's even more so. And I feel like there's the common questions of I forgot to say it, and do I need to go back, and does it change, and I remembered here or not there. So there's a few klalim that if we'll know, it will help us to make our own psak in these things just based on remembering these klalim, and that's what I want to get back. That's what I want to accomplish tonight. So, first question, we'll just say a practical. The beginning of the beginning question will be why do we bichlal say Ya'aleh v'Yavo? What is the source we say Ya'aleh v'Yavo? Why do we say Ya'aleh v'Yavo? Why is it so important to mention Ya'aleh v'Yavo? And this is the basic of the basic. We say Ya'aleh v'Yavo, but why do we say it? That's the first question. Second question, I could say, is sometimes we do go back, sometimes we don't go back. Is there some sort of concept behind what's going on, and based on that we do need to go back sometimes, and sometimes it's fine if we miss it. And third question is, we find something very interesting about Ya'aleh v'Yavo is on Chol HaMoed, or we'll start with Rosh Chodesh. If you forget Ya'aleh v'Yavo on Rosh Chodesh night, then on a Mariv you go back. You need to repeat Shmoneh Esrei. That's on Chol HaMoed.
When?
On Chol HaMoed,
at night?
Or if you forget at night, by Mariv, you have to repeat Shmoneh Esrei. You have to repeat it. However, on Rosh Chodesh we know you don't need to repeat it. If you forget by Mariv, you do not need to repeat it. So what is the difference? You can't say that's something about Mariv, because sometimes you do repeat Mariv, sometimes you don't repeat Mariv. So when is it that you do? What is the reason that you do? What is the reason that you don't? Now we touched this sugya when we spoke a couple of weeks ago about Rosh Chodesh. So we spoke about what's the halachos of Ya'aleh v'Yavo at night, but we'll sum up everything hopefully in this year. And then, I guess last question, there is if we think about what Ya'aleh v'Yavo is all about, Ya'aleh v'Yavo is, we're asking Hashem, Ya'aleh v'Yavo v'yagia. We have a whole long davening, and like bakashos, and bakashos for Yerushalayim, for Am Yisrael, l'chein, l'chesed, l'rachamim, zochreinu b'zikaron tov. We have a whole list of like bakashos over there, and we know there's a klal, there's a law, a halachic law, that a person should not ask for his tzrachim, his bakashos, on Shabbos. A person on Shabbos is not supposed to ask for Hashem for his bakashos. It's a klal. That's why only if it's a chole that's like really sick, we ask, we do a mishaberach, like a special mishaberach cholim. But in general, we don't go ahead and daven for our personal parnasa or anything like that. Number one. Number two is there's a klal that in Shmona Esrei, you should not ask for your personal stuff, not in the first three brachos, which is Magen Avraham, Mechayim Mesi, Menat Kadosh. A person should not ask for his personal stuff. And also the last three brachos, which if we'll start from the end, is Sim Shalom, Modim, and Ritzei. Right? The three first ones, the three last ones, you don't ask for personal stuff. Out through what? No, it's all part of Modim. But out through the whole middle is personal tzrachim, and whoever has personal tzrachim, the last chance before you hit the Gimel Achronos is right before Shomei Tefillah, or at the end after after Elokai Nitzor, which is basically after you finished everything. But then all of a sudden, when it's Rosh Chodesh or Chol Hamoed, and we need to mention Ya'alev Yavo, which seems like tzrachim and bakashos of a personal person, we're asking for bakashos, we're asking for tzrachim, we mention it in Ritzei, which is the last three. How does that fit? Kind of just topping up the question of we should not be asking for our personal bakashos on Shabbos. However, even every day we shouldn't be asking in the three last brachos, but we find Ya'alev Yovo on Shabbos, and we find it in the last three brachos. So how does all of this fit into one molding, or somewhat in the molding? And through this, I hope through this to get some understanding of when yes, when no, and also what is Ya'alev Yovo about, what is the chiyuv of it. So I'll hear the answers of everybody after I finish. So I wanted to okay, go.
How does one day differ from 2 days Rosh Chodesh?
And what's Ya'alev Yovo?
Yeah, is there a difference?
It's different?
No,
I don't think there's a difference. I don't think there's. I mean, as far.
You say B'Marav.
B'Marav, both days you don't choser. As far as I know, yeah, both nights you don't choser. It's not like the first night we didn't know, but the second night we already know it's choser. No, there's B'Marav you don't choser. All right, so let's start. There's a Gemara in Maseches Shabbos. The Gemara says the following, and this is, I think, the source to say Ya'alev Yovo. So the Gemara in Maseches Shabbos, Daf Kaf Daled Amud Aleph, says. It's right after the Halachas of Hanukkah, if anybody wants to remember. The Gemara says the following. Tani Rabbi Moshe, Yamim sheyesh bahem karban musaf. Days that there's karban musaf, that we have a karban musaf, kegon, Rosh Chodesh, Chol Moed, these days which we have karban musaf, Arvis, Shachris and Mincha. So it's mentioned that on Mariv, on Shachris, and by Mincha, Mispalel Shmona Esrei, Ve'omer Me'ein HaMe'ora Ba'avoda. You say, Me'ein the Me'ora of the day. We have a day. We have to mention something from the day, Me'ein HaMe'ora, by the davening of Shmona Esrei, by Avoda. Which Avoda is Ritzei Hashem, Elokeinu B'amcha Yisrael V'Tfilasam, that's called the davening of avoda. So the Gemara says you're supposed to mention this. Tani Rabbi Moshe says you need to mention me'ein hame'ora, something from the day. How would I translate me'ein ha'avoda?
Topic of the day.
Mention the day. I'll just leave it at mention the day in avoda. Ve'im lo omar, what happens if a person forgets to mention it then? Machzirim also. You have to go back. However, ve'in, just a minute, I lost the spot. Ve'in b'hem kedusha ala kos, these days you don't need to make kiddush, even though it's Rosh Chodesh, even though it's Chol Hamoed, you don't need to make kiddush. Be'esh bahen hazkara bebirkas hamazon. Also in birkas hamazon, you have to mention Ya'aleh V'yavo. Now, if we realize it's split by Birkas Hamazon, it's not mentioned that what happens if you don't say it, that you have to go back. If you forget to say it and you have to go back, it's mentioned only by davening. It's not mentioned by Birkas Hamazon about these days of Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed. So, the question is, why do we mention Ya'aleh V'yavo by Avoda? Why don't we mention it in a different place? Or what is this halacha to mention Ya'aleh V'yavo, or Me'ein the day, which should be more accurate, Me'ein the Me'ora, something about the day, in Tfilas HaAvoda? Why do we mention it then? And if we realize, the way Rabbi Oshia started the Gemara was, Yamim sheyesh b'hem karban musaf. He's Tole, he puts this halacha that you have to mention something from the day in Tfilas HaAvoda in days that there's karban musaf. So he's looking for those days that has karban musaf, and on those days he puts the halacha of on the days of karban musaf. He says you have to mention it by Tfilas musaf. Okay, so what is going on here? Why do we mention Ya'aleh V'yavo dafka by Tfilas HaAvoda? And number two, why is it talui? Why does it depend on karban musaf? If it's just a day that, it's a unique day, just say any day that's unique, you need to say me'ein the me'ora. Why is it about the Tfilas musaf? So Rashi says the following. Be'omer me'ein ha-me'ora ba'avoda. Rashi says, Levakesh rachamim, you're asking for mercy. Al Yisrael, for Bnei Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim, for the city of Yerushalayim. Lehashiv avoda limkoima, to bring back the avoda limkoima, the avoda of Beis Hamikdash. Which avoda? La'asos korbanos hayom. So we're asking in avoda, me'ein me'ora, we're asking avoda, which is talking about korbanos specifically, because we're asking for rachamim about Yerushalayim, about Bnei Yisrael. They build Beis Hamikdash, so we could do these korbanos that we now don't have. This is how Rashi explains the Gemara. So based on this Rashi, now it goes really well. Why it depends on days that there's karban musaf, because we're coming to say that we want to do these korbanos. What we're mentioning Ya'aleh V'yavo is not just because of this day. It's something unique about the day. So like Kiddush, we mention, we mekadesh the day. Rather, it's a bakasha. We want Beis Hamikdash. We need rachamim for Yisrael and for Yerushalayim, so we could do the karbanos. So it's something about the karbanos. All we're mentioning Ya'aleh V'yavo is on days that we have karbanos, which now we don't have, because we don't have Beis Hamikdash. We are coming and asking Hashem to rebuild Beis Hamikdash, have rachamim of Bnei Yisrael, so we could do that din. So this gives a little bit of clarity of why do we mention it, because I'm sure everyone were very puzzled till now, every Rosh Chodesh, of why in the world am I saying Ya'aleh V'yavo in the middle of Ritzei? What? It's going for the korbanos
So it's Musaf, and then Ya'aleh V'yavo. So what, we brought two offerings in the morning?
No, but any day that we have, when we have a davening, we mention this thing not because of the korban of that will be makriv, this tefillah, but something for this day. We're mentioning it in Shmona Esrei, in our bakashos, where mevakesh by the bracha for avoda, we're mentioning about the korbanos of this day, even though it would be by musaf and I'm holding by shachris.
Because he wants to know
It's
what's
not
in place of it. Musaf is in place of it. I think that's what
It's what?
It's not in place of the
Like, how 3 davenings
It's not in
a
place.
day?
Oh, no. It's not very good. It's not a replacement. It's a bakasha. We wanted, it's a different type. Very good. Daniel is saying something very, I think very interesting, is we know that tefillos are instead of karbanos. This tefillah is instead of that karban. This is not instead of a karban. The way Rashi says it is, we are asking for Beis Hamikdash so we could do the karban. We're not coming to say, we have a replacement for that karban. That replacement is called davening, avodah shebalev, tefillah. We're not going down that route. It's a special bakasha for the karbanos that we want to do in Beis Hamikdash. Yeah? Okay. So, again, just let's go back. So everyone were puzzled till now. Why in the world is the tefillah for Ya'aleh V'yavo in the middle of Ritzei, which is talking about, Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu B'amcha Yisrael V'sfilasam V'ashay V'savoda. Why are we mentioning Ya'aleh V'yavo? The reason is Ya'aleh V'yavo exactly fits there when we're davening for the Hashem to have Miratze V'hashay V'savoda Lidvir Beisecha. That's the whole tefillah is talking about bringing back the avoda Lidvir Beisecha. We are adding in this day that there's extra dinim of karbanos. We are putting them in as well in this bracha that was nitkan, and Chachamim said that you have to add it in because there is extra karbanos in this day. So the Ritzei Hashem is talking about every day's karbanos you're davening. But the Ya'aleh V'yavo davening, the way we know it, is asking to please bring back Beis Hamikdash for this purpose. And that's why we put it in Ritzei. Now if you think a second.
Why is it in benching? Because it has nothing to do with...
1 second. במות החודש הזה, אז חיינו השם לכנו בו טובו ופקדם. In the davening of Ya'aleh V'yavo, we don't mention at all karbanos. We don't mention karbanos. In the whole Ya'aleh V'yavo, we don't mention karbanos. So Rabbi Oshia said, mention Ya'aleh V'yavo in Ritzei, in Avoda, because the davening of Ya'aleh V'yavo is Yerushalayim and Bnei Yisrael. Rachamim on Yerushalayim and Bnei Yisrael. And then Rashi adds in this twist from the Gemara, basically, is we're davening for Yerushalayim and Bnei Yisrael, not just as a have Rachamim on us, Hashem, have Rachamim on Yerushalayim, but have Rachamim on Yerushalayim and on Beis Hamikdash, because we want to do the karbanos. And that's why we put it in the Avoda. So it's interesting. Ya'aleh V'yavo does not talk about it at all, but the takana was to mention this tefillah in Avoda, and then it's like part of this bracha of Ritzei. It's all part of one thing. So that's just a side note of what's going on here. So now,
So why is it in benching? Because benching is not tefillah.
That's what too. That's the second part of the brisa that says also by benching you need to mention it. But that's because there was it seems like it's a separate takana. I shouldn't say a separate takana. As if there's two things going on, but it's really one thing. Anytime you're doing we'll get to benching in a minute. Meir is asking good. He's saying all this is good for Tfilas Ritzei. When we're talking about the Avoda. But what would he do by benching that you mention it in the middle? Now, if you realize, where do we mention it by benching? Between Rachim and Uvnei, right before Uvnei Yerushalayim, we mention Ya'aleh V'yavo. I vaguely remember that's related, but I don't want to say, I saw it now that it's because of also this whole thing, but I vaguely remember that it is, especially that's on video, so if I say something wrong in like 30 years, someone will tell me, oh, you said that, and I'm like, what? So, yeah, so thank you. Keeping me on the mark, I can't make up stuff. So it could, but Ashkafa Rishona, I do remember vaguely that we do mention it by Uvnei Yerushalayim. It's like I think it's a machlokes where to put it, and we paskin to put it before Uvnei Yerushalayim. It could be it's related to this. Now, okay, so this is all explaining where was the takana originally for Ya'aleh V'yavo. And this is just something to help us understand what we're doing basically every single month, every single Chol HaMoed, every single time. So now the next step is to understand when yes and when no. And there's a very interesting klal, which I think is something that each one could tell. The way it's all based on Chazal made a takana that whatever you are required to do in those days, Lamashal, you have to daven shachris in those days. Every day a person has to daven shachris. So in the tefillah of shachris, which you are required, you have to say Ya'aleh V'yavo. And if you don't say it, you didn't fulfill your requirement in the right way. Mimele, it's the same halacha with Ritzei. Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu, that we say on Shabbos, you're required to mention it in a meal of Shabbos, because you have to eat a meal of Shabbos. Now we know there's a halacha that what if you forget, Ya'aleh v'yavo on Rosh Chodesh and benching? Do you have to go back or don't have to go back? The answer is, you do not have to go back. But Ritzei on Shabbos, if you forget, you do have to go back. Besides for Shal Shus, we'll get to that in a minute. Why Ya'aleh v'yavo? You don't need to go back by benching. But if you forget Ritzei, which is also part of the same Gemara that you have to mention Me'ein HaMe'ora, it's the same Gemara, you have to mention something in benching, Ritzei, you do have to go back. If somebody benches Friday night and he forgets Ritzei, he goes back. But Ya'aleh v'yavo on a random Tuesday, that happens to be Rosh Chodesh, you don't have to go back. What's the difference between the two? So based on this, it's a person is required to eat bread on Shabbos for a meal. Whatever you are required to do, just like Shachris, when you are required, in your requirement is the mention Me'ein HaMe'ora of the day. The day is tied with this requirement. But Rosh Chodesh, there's no halacha to wash on bread. There's an inyan of laharbos b'seuda, but it's not like Shabbos that's required for you to wash on bread. Therefore, if on Rosh Chodesh you forget to say Ya'aleh v'yavo, since it wasn't required to wash and to wash and mimela the bench, you don't have to go back. It's not something essential in the day. Things which are essential in the day, which are part of the day, as the mechuyavus, or mechuyav mitzad the day. The day is telling you have to eat bread. The day is telling you have to daven. Those things, whatever you are required, if you forget to mention the day, you have to go back. Now the poskim speak about a very interesting question. What happens if Rosh Chodesh lands on Shabbos? Happens pretty often. And if somebody, he said Ritzei, but he forgot Ya'aleh v'yavo. So he forgot, and benching. He said Ritzei, and he forgot Ya'aleh v'yavo. So, does he need to go back or not? Because he's required to wash, but not because of Rosh Chodesh. He's required to wash because of, he's required to wash because of Shabbos, not because of Rosh Chodesh. Or no, since now it landed together, so he's required to wash. And if he's required to wash, he's required to say Ya'aleh v'yavo. So the poskim, the Mishnah Berurah brings down that you don't need a choser. You don't need a choser if you forgot, because the requirement comes from Shabbos. It doesn't come from Rosh Chodesh. Of course, if somebody forgets Asa Ritzei and Asa Ya'aleh v'yavo, when he goes back, he says both. It's not, his benching went for Rosh Chodesh, but not for Shabbos. He does need to mention the second time Ya'aleh v'yavo, because he wasn't Yotzeh with the thing. But if he said Ritzei, he doesn't need to go back. But again, the requirement, which always could have, how to remember these halachos going forward, is whatever you're required to do, that's when you need to go back. What happens by Shal Shudis? Shal Shudis, we don't go back if we forget Ritzei. Why don't we go back if we forget Ritzei? So it's the same halachos. So the Mishnah Berurah writes, because there's poskim that say that you don't need to wash for Shal Shudis. I think it's Minhag Chabad, they only say Mizonos, but we don't paskin like that. The Shulchan Aruch does not paskin like that, and you should wash halacha l'maisa 3 times. But because there's poskim out there that hold that you don't need to wash, Safek brachos lahakel le'inyan birkas hamazon. And it's not that we paskin that you don't need to wash, you do need to wash. But le'inyan birkas hamazon, if you forgot, Safek brachos lahakel, just because of these poskim, it's going back to the same halacha. Only things that are required out through the day, that's the things that if you forget to mention the day in those things, that's when you go back.
So what about Shal Shudis? You do need to, or what?
So you don't need to go back because there's poskim.
For what? For Ritzei?
For Ritzei, yeah.
But it's still, okay, it's because of some say no, not 3 times.
Yeah. Okay. Now about our first question of how can we even ask for these things on Shabbos? How can we ask for these things every day in the brachos, which halacha l'maisa a person shouldn't be asking for? How do we go ahead and ask for them? So I want to share with everyone a very interesting drisha, which was one of the early poskim on the tour. He wrote his comments. He was like almost the generation of the Ramah, like a little after the Ramah, and he wrote a Prisha Drisha, and on the Shulchan Aruch he wrote the Sma. So he's like all over. If you open up the Torah, you get him. If you open up the Shulchan Aruch, you get him. But he was one of the early, probably lived 400 years ago, something like that. And he asks this question of how could we say Ya'aleh v'yovo on Shabbos? And he says a fascinating answer, and whoever has a pshat in what he says, feel free to say. So the answer goes like this. He says, V'od, he has a few answers, but his last one he says, V'od, the lo mikri bakasha, bakasha that you're not supposed to ask for, ki im, lo mikri bakasha, ki im ma she'adam mevakesh al tzorach parnasa. Only whatever someone is asking for parnasa, refuah, ve'orech yamim, ve'osher. So again, for parnasa, for refuah, for health, orech yamim, long life, ve'osher, wealth. That is a problem to ask for on Shabbos, or when you're in the 3 Gimel Rishonos of Shmoneh Esrei, or the 3 last brachos. However, Aval Masha Adam Mevakesh Al Binyan Ha'oretz, Al Binyan Habayis, for Beis HaMikdash, Ubias HaMashiach, and Mashiach to come. The Kibbutz Galuyos, the Bnei Yisrael should reunite. Lo Mikri Bakasha. These things are not called a Bakasha. Again, a Bakasha that's problematic is Parnasa, Refuah, or Yamim, and Osher. But if you're asking for Am Yisrael, Beis HaMikdash, everyone to come together, that's not a problem, even though it's Lashon Bakasha. So what is the pshat in this? What's the difference? What? You're allowed to on Shabbos, you're allowed to on the Gimel Achronos.
Spiritual requests and physical requests.
Oh, so
No physical requests.
it could be, that's what Daniel said in the beginning, that what the problem to ask on Shabbos is only things which are gashmi, like seems like the list is like physical stuff, but the kibbutz galuyos, binyan habayis, Yerushalayim, these things are spiritual things, and that is not a problem. Could be that's a pshat. I don't have a clear answer. I was thinking a couple of ideas, but I don't have a clear explanation. That seems like very clear cut between the two. One is just a list of wealth stuff, health, wealth, personal, materialistic things, and the other one is very spiritual things. Beis HaMikdash, Yerushalayim, what was it? Bias HaMashiach and Kibbutz Galuyos. So that's things that are it's not called a bakasha. I thought that maybe, I'm not sure it's right, it's true, but I thought, I was going through the Nusach of Ya'aleh v'yovo, and
I turned to that page because it says that if you miss Ya'aleh v'yovo, these are if brachos you can make after.
oh, yeah, okay, thank you. So far I didn't miss it, I'm still in the middle. Yeah. So if you see, you're asking for Yerushalayim ben David Avdecha, so, right, the whole list, Zichron Mashiach, Zichron Yerushalayim, Zichron Kol Amcha B'Yisrael, L'chein L'ches Rachem L'chaim L'sholom B'yom, right, Rosh Chodesh, Zochreinu Hashem L'tova V'Fagdeinu, right. We ended off, Ki Elecha Einenu, right? We're asking for this whole list, and then we ended off with 2 things, Ki Elecha Einenu. I was wondering if Ki Elecha Einenu is different than asking for Parnasa, or for Refuah, or for these things. Here we're asking for a very interesting list of Yerushalayim, Kibbutz Galuyos, Beis HaMikdash, and we end off the whole list. Ubidvar Yeshua v'Rachamim, Chus Chanein, right? Ki Elecha Einenu, Ki Kel Melech Hanun v'Rachumata. We're turning to Hashem and we're telling Him, you know why we're asking for this whole list? Ki Elecha Einenu. It's a different type of bakasha. It's not, Hashem, I want Parnasa. Hashem, I want, Ki Elecha Einenu demands Yerushalayim, demands Kibbutz Galuyos, demands Mashiach. If our bakasha comes from, we are targeted towards you, and therefore we deserve this list. It's not we are asking for this list as a we want Yerushalayim, please send Yerushalayim. We want Beis HaMikdash, please send, even though it's great things. We want Kibbutz Galuyos, Hashem, please give us Kibbutz Galuyos. We want these things, Ki alacha einenu, because we are focused to you. Our eyes are to you. Our eyes to you means we get Beis Hamikdash. So it's not so much we are demanding. It's more because we are facing where our eyes are towards you, we should get this whole list. It's a different type of bakasha than the regular tzrachim that a person comes to Hashem and says, Hashem, please give me these things. Here we're saying, Hashem, since we are focused to you, our eyes are looking forward to you, this is the outcome that's supposed to come. Because this is like the reason we're giving Hashem, why should we get this whole list? It's the end of Ya'aleh V'Yavo. That was a machshav I had. I'm not sure it's true. Is it clear the chiluk I said between the... Clear? Yeah. Just a machshav I had. I'm not sure it's correct. I'm not sure it's right. It was a machshav I had, but definitely it could be like both of you said, that it's more spiritual things versus materialistic things or personal, like, wealth, refuah, stuff like that. That is the problem. But anything that involves ruchnius, that is not the problem. And it could be, it's also, they both go together. Ruchnius stuff are, the demand for the ruchnius stuff are, it's not really a bakasha. I'm not asking from you for it. It's just, technically, since I'm for you, that's what's supposed to be. Ruchnius shefa. To get these things in order that I could fulfill that thing of ki alacha einenu. So, what do we come out with this whole shir? It was a very, I want to say, very halacha l'maisa shir today, and I forgot to prepare stories, so I'm sorry. Because usually stories are, I don't want to say always better, but many times better. But halacha l'maisa, we came out, Ya'aleh V'Yavo, Ritzei, all these things are required. It's required to mention something about the day in Shmoneh Esrei, in benching, in all the things that we do. When is it required in a way that if you don't say you have to go back? It's when those things are part of the day that you're mechuyev. You're obligated to do that. Like Shacharis you're obligated, or eating a meal on Shabbos you're obligated. Why Ya'aleh V'Yavo in middle of Shmoneh Esrei? Why by Ritzei? It's because really the davening of Ya'aleh V'Yavo is not that just Hashem should have rachamim on Bnei Israel, Hashem should have rachamim on Yerushalayim, all these beautiful things we say. Rather, Hashem, we want to do this karbanos of this day. That's why the takana is here. So Yiratzon, the next Rosh Chodesh or even Purim is coming up, and we have Al Nisim, a different story. But Yiratzon, that we should remember these halachos, and in Shmoneh Esrei, did I say Ya'aleh V'Yavo, what's the halacha? Let's find it in the siddur. It will give a little clarity for these halachos. Shabbos, everyone.
Where does he also